My wife secretly married her boss, transferred $250, $0 from our joint account to his company, and just sued me for our house saying she, entitled to half. She's been lying about everything for years. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife, Lisa, who I thought was the love of my life, turned out to be the biggest liar and cheat I've ever known. Honestly, I still can't believe it's real. It all started with little things, small signs that I brushed off because I didn't want to believe the worst. But then, things got to a point where I couldn't ignore them anymore. And what I found out was so shocking, so infuriating, that I still wake up feeling like I'm in some twisted nightmare. Lisa and I had been together for over 10 years. We met in college, got married right after she finished her master, and for a while everything seemed perfect. She was ambitious, driven, and always so confident. But over the last year, I started noticing little cracks in her armor. She became more secretive about her phone, started working late more often, and would get defensive whenever I asked about her whereabouts or her plans. I thought maybe it was just stress from her job or her trying to climb the corporate ladder. She was a high-powered executive, always talking about her boss, Mark. She'd joke about how he was hot for her, or how he was the only one who understood her ambition. I didn't think much of it, at least not at first. But then came the signs I couldn't ignore. She started canceling date nights, claiming she had important meetings or urgent work. Her phone started ringing at odd hours, and she would quickly hide it or turn away when I looked over. Little things, but enough to make me suspicious. Still, I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I was overthinking it, maybe she was just stressed. Then one day I decided to check her email. I know, big mistake, but something about how she was acting just didn't sit right with me anymore. I was trying to find out if she was hiding something. It started with her inbox. I saw a string of messages between her and Mark, nothing overtly explicit at first, just casual, flirtatious, but definitely more than professional. Then I saw an email from her to him titled Our Secret, where she mentioned having dinner with him after hours and how she was tired of pretending everything was fine. My stomach sank. I kept scrolling and found an attachment, bank transfer receipts. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She had transferred $250, $0 from our joint account to a company I'd never heard of her boss. The money was gone. I stared at the screen, trying to process it. That's when it hit me. She was having an affair, probably more than that. She was betraying me financially, emotionally, and probably physically too. I started shaking. My mind raced. How could she do this? How could she lie to me for so long? I felt a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and utter disbelief. It was like my entire world had crashed down in that moment. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed to be careful. This wasn't just about cheating anymore. It was about betrayal on every level. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but everything pointed to a full-blown affair with her boss, Mark. I had to get her to admit it. I had to hear her say the words. I needed to understand how she could do this to us, to our life together. I took a deep breath, set my phone aside, and waited for her to come home that evening, feeling like I was walking into a storm I couldn't control. That night she came home late again, smelling of perfume I didn't recognize and looking way too smug for someone who should have been tired from work. I was sitting in the living room, pretending I was fine, but my mind was racing. I had the evidence, the receipts, the messages. Everything was laid out in front of me, and I knew I couldn't keep pretending like nothing was wrong. When she finally stepped inside, I didn't waste a second. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Lisa, we need to talk, now." Her face immediately shifted, a little defensive, a little annoyed. She tried to brush it off, saying, "What's wrong, honey? You're overreacting. I've just been stressed at work." But I wasn't buying it. I pulled out my phone and showed her the email, the transfer, the messages. Her eyes widened for a split second, then she quickly recovered, putting on her fake bitchy smile. "Oh, that's just a business investment," she said, brushing it off like it was nothing. "You don't understand how things work in my line of work, and honestly, I don't think it's your business." Her tone was dismissive and her attitude was infuriating. She lied so easily, like she thought I was stupid. I couldn't believe how she was acting. She was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt what I saw. She kept insisting, It's just a misunderstanding, or you're overthinking it, but I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. I told her I knew about Mark, about the affair, about the money she transferred. Her face flickered just for a second and then she snapped. "You're crazy," she spat. "You're just jealous because I work hard and I have a life outside of you. You're insecure and you're making this all up." That was her go-to: blame me, call me insecure, try to make me feel like I was the problem. But I wasn't stupid. I knew she'd been lying for a long time. I saw her sneaking around, hiding her phone, lying about her late nights. I felt a mixture of anger and heartbreak. How could she treat me like this? After everything we'd been through, she was just throwing it all away for some meaningless affair and a few $1,000s from her boss. I told her I wanted her to leave, not just for tonight, but for good. I told her I was done trusting her, done pretending I didn't see what was right in front of me. She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk, trying to act like she was the victim. "You're overreacting," she said again, her voice dripping with contempt. "You'll regret this, you always do." That moment, I felt a cold wave of realization wash over me. I'd been blind for so long, making excuses, hoping she'd change. But she hadn't. She was just a liar, a manipulator, a user. I knew I had to do something drastic. I couldn't let her keep draining me, lying to my face, stealing from us, and treating our marriage like some game she could win. I told her to pack her things and get out that night. She yelled, called me names, and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I stood there, trembling, feeling the weight of betrayal crushing me. That night I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying everything in my head: the lies, the betrayal, the money gone, her sneering face. I couldn't believe I'd been so stupid, so trusting. I thought I knew her, but I didn't know her at all. I felt numb, angry, and more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. That's when I started realizing what I was really up against. This wasn't just about some affair. It was about her stealing from us, lying to my face, and trying to throw everything away. I knew I had to figure out my next move. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The days that followed were a whirlwind. After she left that night, I felt like I was in a fog. My mind kept circling back to everything I'd discovered: her affair with Mark, the transfer of our life savings, the lies. I spent hours digging through bank statements, emails, text messages, anything I could find. I needed to understand the full scope of her betrayal, and honestly, I was furious. How could she think she could just cheat, steal, and then brush it off like it was nothing? I remember sitting at my desk, staring at the pile of documents I'd printed out, feeling like I was losing my mind. I never thought I'd be the guy who got cheated on, who got screwed over financially and emotionally. But here I was. The pain was sharp, but beneath it was a burning sense of betrayal that made my blood boil. I kept asking myself, why did she do this? Was it just about the money? Or was there something more, something deeper? I also started to realize she'd been lying to me for years. She'd always been bitchy, dismissive, and quick to turn things around on me when I asked questions. But now I saw her true colors: selfish, manipulative, and completely untrustworthy. And the worst part, I still loved her. I kept telling myself that maybe I was overreacting, maybe I was making a mistake. But deep down, I knew I couldn't fix this. Not after what I found out. One thing that really hit me was the way she tried to gaslight me during that confrontation. She kept insisting she was just working late, that Mark was just a friend, that the money transfer was a business deal, and that I was crazy for suspecting anything. She looked me in the eyes and lied so convincingly that I almost believed her at first. But I didn't. I knew better. I had the receipts, the proof, everything. She'd been lying to my face for years, and I was finally seeing it all clearly. I also discovered something else. She had been planning her move for a while. I found emails where she talked about starting fresh with Mark, about how she was entitled to half of everything because she deserved better, and how she was going to sue me for the house. That last part floored me. She was trying to take everything from me, including the house we had bought together. I couldn't believe her audacity, her greed. It was like she was willing to burn everything down just to be with her lover and get her hands on my money. At that point, I realized I needed to get legal advice. I contacted a lawyer and explained everything. The lawyer told me I had a solid case for divorce and for reclaiming the money she stole. But what really hit me was the realization that I was going to have to fight for my rights, both financially and emotionally. I wasn't just going to let her walk away with our house and our savings. I wanted justice. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done. Meanwhile, I also started to see her true colors more clearly. Her bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulations, they all added up to someone I didn't recognize anymore. I felt betrayed, hurt, and angry, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. This wasn't the woman I married. She was a different person, selfish, greedy, and willing to destroy everything we had built for her own benefit. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I had to decide what to do next. But one thing was clear. I was done being the victim. I was going to fight for what was mine, for my dignity, and for my future. I didn't know exactly how it was going to play out, but I was determined to make her pay for what she'd done, one way or another. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning of a long, ugly battle. The legal process dragged on, and every day felt like a new punch to the gut. I was pouring through documents, trying to gather every shred of evidence to prove her betrayal, text messages, emails, bank transfers, and I was also trying to keep my emotions in check. But that was almost impossible. Every time I thought about her lying, cheating, and stealing from us, it made my blood boil. I kept asking myself how she could be so ruthless, so bitchy, so completely devoid of any remorse. She, on the other hand, was trying to play the victim. When we finally sat down with the lawyer, she showed up with that same bitchy smirk, acting like she was the wronged party. She denied everything, of course, said she was just trying to better her career, that Mark was just a friend, and that I was paranoid. She even had the nerve to claim I was controlling her, that I was jealous and insecure. That made me laugh bitterly. I'd never been controlling, just cautious, and now I knew why. She'd been sneaking around behind my back for years, and I'd been blind to it. Her claim that she was entitled to half the house because she deserved more was the final straw. She hadn't even blinked when she said it, like she was entitled to everything I had worked for. I looked at her and thought, you bitch, you think you can just take everything, lie your way out of it, and walk away. Not on my watch. I decided I needed to be strategic. I started working closely with my lawyer, making sure every detail was covered. I wanted to fight her for every penny, for the house, for the truth. Meanwhile, she kept up her act, pretending to be innocent, crying crocodile tears when she wasn't smirking behind her hand. She even accused me of being crazy for suspecting her, which made me want to scream. How could she be so manipulative, so bitchy? I'd never been this angry in my entire life. Every time I saw her face, I saw the lies, the betrayal, the greed. It was like she was a different person, someone I didn't recognize. Then came the most shocking part. She filed a lawsuit claiming she was entitled to half the house. She was trying to legally steal what we had built together, all because she wanted to be with Mark and take my money. I couldn't believe her audacity. I had to act fast. I worked with my lawyer to prepare a counterclaim, to prove that her transfer of funds was a clear sign of infidelity and financial betrayal. I also wanted to show that her claims to the house were based on lies and manipulation. During this whole process, I felt a roller coaster of emotions: anger, sadness, frustration, and a kind of numb disbelief. I kept asking myself how I got here. How did my wife, someone I trusted and loved, become this manipulative, greedy person? I kept replaying the moments where she brushed off my concerns, called me insecure, and dismissed my feelings. Now I saw her for what she truly was: a bitchy, selfish woman who was willing to destroy everything for her own benefit. Despite all this, I knew I couldn't let her break me. I was determined to fight for my rights, for my dignity, and for the truth. I wanted her to pay for her lies, for her betrayal, and for stealing from us. I was tired of feeling hurt, tired of feeling betrayed. But I also knew this was just the start. There was still a long legal battle ahead, and I was prepared to see it through. I had to, not just for myself, but to make sure she couldn't get away with it. The court dates came faster than I expected, and every hearing felt like a new battlefield. I was pouring everything I had into proving her lies, her financial betrayal, and her attempt to steal what we had built. She showed up dressed to impress, acting like the innocent victim, throwing in her bitchy smirk when she thought she had the upper hand. But I wasn't falling for her act anymore. I had the evidence, and I was prepared to fight for every cent. The most infuriating part was her claim that she was entitled to half the house because she deserved more. She kept saying she was entitled to half because she'd sacrificed so much, her career, her time, her body even, just to support us. She said she'd been entitled to a better life, and I could see her eyes flickering with greed every time she mentioned the house or the money. She was trying to manipulate the court, spinning her lies like a pro. But I had my lawyer and I had the proof. The transfers, the emails, the texts, everything that showed her planning her move, her affair, her betrayal. One day I caught her in a lie during the hearing. She claimed she had no idea about the transfer of funds, that it was all Mark's idea, that she was just following orders. I shot her a cold look and pulled out the email chain where she directly discussed transferring the money. Her face drained of color. She tried to deny it, but the evidence was overwhelming. That's when I saw her bitchy smirk falter. She realized her lies weren't going to hold up anymore. The judge, after hearing all the evidence, ruled that the transfer was indeed a betrayal and that she had no legal claim to the house. She looked furious, but I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with anger. I knew I was finally getting some justice. But the worst part was still ahead, her attempt to sue me for the house, claiming she was entitled to half. I had to fight that too. I worked with my lawyer to prepare a response, emphasizing her infidelity and her financial misconduct, arguing that she was trying to manipulate the court for her own benefit. Throughout the process, I couldn't help but reflect on how bitterly she had lied, how she'd been so bitchy and manipulative from the start. Her lies about her working late, her excuses for her secret meetings, her fake tears, all of it was just a mask for her greed and her desire to cheat her way into my life and my money. It was hard to accept that the woman I loved had turned into someone so different, so selfish. In the end, the court ruled in my favor on most counts. She was denied her claim to the house, and I was awarded the remaining funds from the transfer, minus what she had already taken. I felt a mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd finally fought back, but the damage was done. I'd lost my trust, my peace, and a part of my heart. Still, I knew I'd come out of this stronger. I'd learned the hard way that some people, no matter how manipulative or bitchy, will do anything to get what they want, and I'd been stupid enough to believe she was different. Now I was left to pick up the pieces. I'd filed for divorce and I was working on rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy, but I was determined. Her betrayal had shown me who she really was, and I refused to let her destroy what little was left of my sanity. I'd learned a lot about trust, about greed, about how some women will lie and cheat just to get ahead. But I also learned to stand up for myself. That's what I want anyone reading this to remember. Never ignore the signs, never let someone manipulate you, and never be afraid to fight for what's right. Because if you don't, you might end up losing everything, just like I almost did. Now that everything is settled, well, as settled as it can be, I find myself reflecting on the whole nightmare. Honestly, I never thought I'd be the guy who got played so badly, who got betrayed on every level possible. It's a hard lesson, but one I had to learn the hard way. Trust is fragile, and some people will lie, cheat, and manipulate without a second thought. Lisa showed me her true colors, bitchy, entitled, ruthless, and I guess I was just too blind to see it for so long. Getting her out of my life was a relief in some ways, but also a heavy blow. I lost my sense of security, my trust in marriage, and a big chunk of my savings. The pain of realizing she'd been lying about everything, even the little things, still lingers. She tried to gaslight me, manipulate the court, and steal from me, all while pretending to be the victim. That kind of betrayal cuts deep. It made me question everything I thought I knew about her, about us, about what honesty really means. But I'll tell you what I learned from this entire ordeal. First, never ignore the warning signs. The little things, her secretive phone habits, her dismissive attitude, her quick temper, those were all flags I chose to overlook. Second, always protect yourself legally and financially. I wish I had been more cautious before, but now I know better. Documentation, proof, and a good lawyer are your best friends when someone is trying to screw you over. And third, Don't be afraid to fight for what's right, even if it's messy, even if it hurts. Standing your ground is the only way to regain some sense of control. Looking back, I realize I wasted too much time trying to fix what was broken in her. I tried to believe she'd change, that she'd stop lying, that she'd come back to me. But she never did. Instead, she doubled down, trying to take everything I had, all because she wanted to be with Mark and live her own version of happiness, no matter the cost. That realization was bitter, but it helped me let go. Now I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. It's not easy, trust me. I still have days where I feel angry, betrayed, and broken. But I know I'm stronger than her lies. I've learned to recognize the signs of manipulation, and I won't let anyone do this to me again. I've also come to understand that some women, no matter how bitchy and manipulative, will lie and cheat just to get ahead. That's a harsh truth, but it's one I can now face head on. So if there's anyone out there going through something similar, trust your gut, protect your assets, and never let anyone make you feel small or powerless. Because, in the end, you have to live with yourself, and the only way to do that is to stand tall, fight back, and never let anyone steal your dignity. I may have lost a lot, but I'm still here, still fighting and still learning. And that's what keeps me going.